Hi, I'm Robert Osborne. I'm back bringing you our second block of rare and fully restored animated shorts from UPA, United Productions of America. Here to again enlighten us about these animated shorts is a man who knows the subject well, Jerry Beck. Glad you can join us, Jerry.
Thank you.
In our next group of animated shorts made by UPA, we have 1953's Christopher Crumpet, 1954's Fudget's Budget, and The Telltale Heart from 1953. Let's talk about why these are so rare.
Well, these are rare because these cartoons were not shown on television. They were aimed more at adults, back then in theaters. They were aimed at the full movie-going audience. People think of them as just kids' films. And in the 1950s, that's what happened. Television came in and started programming older cartoons as kid-vid, on the afternoons and Saturday morning. And that's suddenly the consciousness of everybody at that time that animation was for children. Just sort of creeped in.
One of the ones we have coming up, The Telltale Heart.
Yeah.
Later. Who would do The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe?
That's another one of those things.
Narrated by James Mason as a cartoon.
That's right. That's one of those things that UPA almost specialized in. And doing dramatic cartoons, outside of the Fleischer Supermans that I mentioned before, those are probably the first non-comic short cartoons. And then they decided to take a really dark subject with The Telltale Heart and animate it. And how do you do that? It's such a visceral experience reading it, and they do it with mainly still images. It's got animation in it, but it's moving art. And another footnote to that is that it was actually designed and shot for 3D. This was the height of the 3D craze in '53. It wasn't released in 3D because the 3D craze came and went so fast that by the time they were ready to release it, they didn't release it in 3D.
And it holds up on its own without 3D.
It looks great, but if you look at it close enough, you can see how it might have looked in 3D, and it's neat.
So what else should we look for in these we're about to see?
Well, we're going to see Fudget's Budget. Boy, oh boy, talk about offbeat. This is they must have had a meeting and said, let's do a cartoon that takes place totally on a graph and a chart. We're going to talk about a typical budget of the 1950s. Strange subject for the short, but it's beautifully done. The color is wonderful. It's all against a black background, and it's all done with this line stick figure art on graphs. And you can just sit back and enjoy it just for the visuals. And again, a key UPA film. Christopher Crumpet is an example of them trying to do kind of a Gerald McBoing kind of cartoon, but in another direction. It's about a kid with a wild imagination, and it's again done in that line art style with very strong colors. This is all part of that cartoon modern feeling of the 1950s.
Must have been great for animators to be working in that because their imagination could go wild. It's kind of like Disney's people did with Fantasia, when you could go any direction you wanted.
It was an artist's haven. It was a place where creativity and imagination can work and be put to work, and they reaped the rewards of that. They won several Academy Awards, and their films were nominated every year. In fact, there's one year where all 3 nominees for Best Short were UPA films.
Yeah. Well, let's have a look. Here are the 3 final UPA shorts of the night. Christopher Crumpet, followed by Fudget's Budget, and ending with Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart.